Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be looking at the Vocoll life support product. We are going to go through how the agent interacts with the product, how the customer interacts with it, and then we're going to go through some of the configuration options around setting up the install to match your company's needs. So first off, this is the agent view. Here you can have the simple buttons to switch between the different areas of the product, and you'll also get the main contact appear in the window here. If we switch over to here, this is what the button will look like when it appears on a website. Obviously all the text and the colors can all be changed to match your company's brands. Also the button here that says live support, this only appears on your website if it meets two conditions. Firstly, it needs to be within your set opening hours, which you set in the config site, which I'll show you later. Additionally, it needs to have an agent set themselves as on shift. This means that if an agent is late for work or needs to rush off into a meeting, they can simply set themselves off shift and then the button won't appear to the users. This means that the button will only ever show when you need users to, when you have agents on shift. Once you click the live support button, you'll get a pop-up like this, and that will initiate the call from the customer's point of view. So the customer will be able to put their name in and they'll have a list of topics to select from. So here if I select one, I'll now go into a message. You'll also get a desktop notification as an agent to show that there is a new customer in your queue. So if I switch back to here, you'll also see that there is a new message icon here as well to show me that there is a new message in the queue. So if I switch back to this window, I can now see my call as a customer. So if I click into this, I can choose to accept them, and this will now move them from the team that they were raised the call from into my team. I'll talk a little bit more about the teams later. Just a note on the button here, this code droplet can work with any CMS. So it'll obviously work with the Verse1 Atlas CMS, but it can also work with WordPress or Drupal or any other CMS that you might need to use it with. And it's just a standalone block of code that you can configure in the config site and then just drop onto your website and it'll start working immediately. So once you're in a call, you can send messages to and from the customer, and there's a few other options that you can do. So I'm just going to run down the options now. Firstly, here you can export the call. So this will give you a zip file which contains a text file of the whole transcript of the call. So you can upload this into a CRM system or anywhere else you might need to save this information. You can also set, there's a configuration option to allow the users to have this as well, so when they end the call they get the option to download it themselves for their own records. You can reassign, so this allows you to reassign the call to a different agent. So if they've come in to the wrong team or their call has got out of hand and you need to escalate it to a manager, here you can simply choose someone else who's online, type in a message, and then it'll pass it over to their queue, letting them know why you've escalated it to them. And the final option here is that you can reassign the category. So if someone's come in on a category such as application status, you can change it to, say, repairs, if that's what their issue is really about. And this is just to make sure that you get the correct data when you're looking at the reporting afterwards. So whilst you're in a call, you also have a few options as an agent. Here you have all the contacts, so this is your internal team, so this is everybody in your organization who's signed up. And what you can do with these is you can open them as panels and ask them questions. And that's obviously real-time messages as well, going back and forwards. So this can help you if you need to ask any questions or you need some additional help on a query. You can ask different members of your team. You can also just have those panels there, or you can open them in a full screen just to chat about work, or if you need to be part of work groups outside of doing support, you can use this to chat to them internally as well. You can also create groups, so you can create project groups with multiple users in. Again, you can chat to them, and this will just allow you to talk through different projects with multiple people. So you might have a group of 6 or 7 people that you can chat to in one go. In theory, you could also have a support group here that you could chat to if you needed support help from a specific team. The media option allows you to save any media that you need to reuse. So every call you have the ability to upload media, and you can either click the upload button or drag and drop to the panel, and this will upload the piece of media to the user. What it will do is also it will render any images or videos in line, so the user can see them and you don't have to jump between different windows and download the images or anything to look at them. What it will also do is it will save the images that you've used into the media file here, so that you can reuse them. So rather than having to go and find where you've saved them or go and upload them again, you can simply click this arrow and it will reinsert it to the next conversation. This is really useful if you have documents that you know you're going to need to send users over and over again. On a similar vein, you have the responses. So these are reusable responses that as an admin you can write in the admin section, and then again you can just simply insert these into the chat and reuse them. So again, if you know you're going to always need to ask for certain information, you can have all these saved ahead of time just to save your agent as much time as possible. The next two options down here are to do with your internal contacts. So similar to your contacts in your groups, you can have guest contacts and guest groups. So these might be external contractors that you want to be able to chat to, and they might need to assist with support in the organization, but you want to limit who they can see and who they can talk to. So you can invite them as a guest and put them into specific groups, and they can only see the people you set them to be able to see and talk to. And finally, you have the league option. This is kind of a gamification on the system. This allows you to award points to different people, and they also get points for messages and engagement and interaction with the system. So this is a good way to make sure that you can get everyone set up, onboarding and remembering to log in every morning to make sure that they're available to chat to other members of the team as well as to handle support queries. So those are the main options that you can do whilst you're in the system. There's obviously a lot you can do when you can talk to different people as well as dealing with support calls. Once you're happy that the support call is resolved, either you or the customer can resolve it. So if I resolve it here as an agent, it will give me the option to check that that was okay. And if I switch over to the customer view here, what it will do is it will open a feedback form. So by default it's a 1 to 5 feedback form with a free text comment box. However, in the config section you can configure this to be whatever kind of questions and setup of questions that you want. And once the customer's happy, they click resolve, and that will remove them out of the queue, and that will deal with that query. Obviously the main benefit of the life support system is that you can handle multiple calls at any given time. So you can have 4 or 5 different calls open, and you can easily switch between them and send messages whilst waiting for the customer to come back and send more messages to you. You can jump to another call and answer that one. We found through our customers that about 4 is the optimum number of calls to have open, so the system does give you a little message just to check if you start going over that, to make sure that you're handling as many calls as you can and you're dealing with the customers in the right amount of time. So that is the main interaction of the support. I'm quickly just going to go through some of the configuration options. There is a lot of configuration options in the system, so what I would suggest is that you make use of the 60-day free trial that we currently have available and get a system set up for you. It gets set up in about a minute. You don't need to download any software. It's all hosted on our servers, it's all hosted in the cloud, so there's no installation. All you need to do is log on to the website and input your details, and you'll have an installation that you can start playing around with. And that is the best way to go through all the config options and work out how best the setup would match your needs as a company. But if I just quickly go through an overview of some of these options, the first set of options you have here is reporting. So what this allows you to do is run reports against either specific users or against the organization, and it lets you choose your start and end time for those reports and get data on, when agents are going on and off shift, how many calls they're dealing with, how long those calls took to be dealt with, the categories those calls were related to, and the kind of general meta information that you would have around the calls. You also have the ability to export the calls, so as well as the agent being able to save it to the CRM system during, at the end of the call, you can also go back and historically grab the data. So if someone's referencing an earlier call, or they've raised a complaint or an issue with it, you can go back and get the whole transcript of the call and look into it and get the details from there. You also have the ability, as I mentioned, to edit the feedback form. So here you can make as many different questions as you want. You can choose text box questions or radio button questions from 1 to 10, 1 to 5, as well as yes/no questions. Along with that, you also have the export, so you can go in and get that feedback data out. You can also run that per user or per specific agent. Also on the reporting, you can schedule the reports. That way you set up the report that you want to run, and when you schedule it, it will run the report, generate the CSV of the data, and then email that to you at the kind of regular schedule that you set. The next option is, if we have a look at a couple of these options, there's a lot of different configuration that you can do on the system. A lot of these have come from customer requests. So our philosophy with the system is always, if a user has a specific need, we want to build that out so that every different organization has access to that feature, because it's going to be an enhancement to the system. So as part of the licenses, we do free upgrades, and we upgrade everyone with no downtime as soon as we have new versions to push out. And any new functionality that we've added, we tend to add as a configuration option, so you can turn it on and off. Such as I mentioned earlier, the ability to give the customer the option to download the call history. You can turn that on and off. And there's a lot of different options that we've added over the years from customer feedback. So the best thing to do is kind of go through and have a look and see which ones match what your needs. Also, if there's anything you think is missing that would be a really good feature, obviously let us know, and we'll look at adding that into the roadmap and adding that as a new option for everyone going forward as well. The final option here is teams. So as you saw earlier, I have kind of two separate teams here that the calls can be raised for. What that means is that some organizations might have a single support team that runs the whole support for the organization. However, you might have each separate team running their own support. So what you can do is you can set as many teams up as you want in the system, and you can set each team to have its own opening hours, its own button, so the live support button that people click when they initiate the call, and their own categories and SLAs. So what that means is you might have one button on a specific page in your website that's for the billing team, or one button that's on a specific page of the website for the repairs team, and those buttons will only match when that team is setting themselves as available on shift. So that gives you an extra level of granularity to set up the teams, and to make sure that you're offering the correct support to the user that they need for any given time. That's about all for the live support and the configuration options. There's obviously a lot more that we can go into, but this is kind of just a quick taster to just show you around the system. So the best thing to do is, if you're interested, to get in touch with either tom.badcock@firstone.com or our general support line number. All of those will be shared in an email contact with us. And yep, cheers, thanks for watching.